Wilk, what's up, man?
How are you?
Nice to meet you. How you doing today?
I'm very well. How are you?
Excellent. Very good. Where are you located?
Clearwater, Minnesota.
Okay. How's Minnesota today?
Foggy and drizzle, but
Okay.
if for for on September 22nd, it is definitely different than what we would expect. We would normally expect a lot colder temps and a lot of snow, but no, we're in the 40s today and it's kind of drizzly and foggy.
Yeah, where I'm in Kansas City, it's unseasonably the same way here. It's they could have technically played baseball all the way up till now if they wanted to. It's been
Wow.
like that. Yeah. So,
Yeah, we got there's like a weird I noticed I was watching it the other day. There's a weird jet stream this year that's got this like hot band uh that's dipping all the way down. Yeah, like Kansas City, St. Louis, stuff like that. But
yeah.
interesting times. We'll see how it
Absolutely,
all
it is. Yeah, let's get into it. It's great to meet you. And I want to begin our conversation with probably one of the more interesting things that's happened in our lifetimes, which has been the pandemic for the last
Yeah.
3.5 years. How did you get through it and how did it change you?
So how I got through it, I've been basically what they called an essential worker since the beginning of the pandemic. I've managed truck drivers, whether they be truck drivers that were delivering propane, for heating and cooking and stuff like that, or on the other hand, what I do now, I manage truck drivers that deliver medical supplies to hospitals, clinics, surgery centers, and things like that. So I've worked every day, minus the times actually I had COVID, but every day since then, and even if I did have COVID, I worked from home. Um, but yeah, it's been one of the things that it's one of the most contentious issues of our time. Obviously, the pandemic, the government's response to the pandemic, and things like that. Um, so yeah, I right from the very beginning, I had big problems with how the government responded to the pandemic and started speaking out against that, which in turn led to some of the other things that I've ended up doing over the past few years. Um, but uh, but yeah, it's been one of these things where I've watched as a lot of people in the Midwest, businesses shut down, people's lives really turned upside down by this thing, and most of it, in my opinion, was probably unnecessarily so.
I agree. I totally agree. I think there's so much of this that could have been avoided and averted and done in a better way. And yeah, and that's a whole other topic. But I do want to kind of peel back the layers of what you do for a living. So I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids curiously asks you, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
So what I do for a living in my regular career, Joe, is I manage truck drivers. Um I'm an operations manager for a large trucking and logistics, outfit. And the thing that I do is I coordinate and provide an environment for my drivers to make sure that they can successfully and on time deliver medical products to hospitals, clinics, surgery centers, things like that. So I have a team of 16 people that report to me right now. They work, we have basically around the clock service 7 days a week. And those drivers work various different shifts, making sure that the medical supplies, surgery kits, and anything having to do with um, hospitals and healthcare gets to the right place on the right time, and so that the hospitals have the products that they need to do the job they need to do for our public.
So you're also a
That's what I do
podcast
now.
host.
I'm also a podcast host. Yeah, I've been hosting the Derate The Hate podcast for um, 3.5, probably going on 4 years now. Started the Derate The Hate podcast back in early 2020, shortly after the pandemic began. I quickly saw how, um, amongst other things, the pandemic was dividing our country. People were, becoming more angry, more toxic. The toxicity in our online ecosystem was out of control. Me being somebody who I had at one point in time, or for a portion of time in my life, contributed to that toxicity, but then worked hard to adjust my own mindset, let's say. um I started the Derate The Hate podcast, and which generally grew some legs and helped me get into what now is really, for the most part, a lot of depolarization work. So the things that divide us most in this country are the things that I try to tackle and talk about, and then I do so in a way that promotes people bettering their own mindset to make the world a better place. As we make ourselves better individuals, we in turn definitely make the world a better place. It's uh it's 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 the way that it works, and it's something that I try to promote every day.
The thing I think that's been one of the best outgrowths of the pandemic is that podcasting has become this big thing. I mean,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
in movies and TV shows, it's referenced, and it's genuinely a platform that anybody can get on. And it's true democracy. If people like it, they're going to tune in. If they don't, they're not going to. But
Right.
but it seems to me to be a therapeutic avenue. Like if we are divided, but when you get into these spaces and you start understanding how other people roll in the world, it just makes everything that much better. Because a lot of us are really the same. We want to have a quality of life. We want to take care of our families. There's a lot of things that we all want to do. And it's a safe space, I think, for us to share those ideas. I just think it's wonderful that it's turned in to what it has. And one of the reasons is because people had time and the opportunity to listen to podcasts, and it just blew up.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think yeah, I mean, with all the faults of, I obviously I talk about the faults and the negatives that have come as a result of this, social media and this online ecosystem that so many people spend so much time in nowadays, Joe. But you're right. The on the outgrowth of podcasting, and certain people being able to develop a voice in these different niches, that or niches or niches, or however it's said, um that have sprung out of podcasting, and people that would never ever in any other probably imaginable scenario have developed a voice, and have developed a following, and people have been able to get information out there and stuff. Because let's face it, I mean, before podcasting, it was like, okay, you had your radio hosts, and you may have your local radio host on a little, 5,000-watt AM station in Podunk, wherever, right? But they had, a few listeners here and there, and whereas like now, this, Midwest redneck like me, I've had this podcast for almost 4 years. I've had people listen to me on every continent on this planet. I've got people that listen on every continent every week. Um, and 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 then, there's some of us that really are out there trying to make the world a better place. I try to, you know enhance their uh voice in ways, and try to bring to the people, these people that are out there doing all they can to better the world in which we live. So yeah, I think podcasting in a huge way has done, and just like anything else, it's got its drawbacks, but in a huge way has been a net positive for the world, and it's definitely one of the highlights of the internet ecosystem, or the connectedness that the internet has brought about.
Well said. So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Wow. When I was in third grade, boy, I think at that time I still probably wanted to be a cop or something like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be somebody's hero, because, yeah, in third grade I was getting picked on a lot. It was a pretty rough patch in my life at that time. but yeah, just wanted to be when I was a kid, I wanted to be an adult so bad, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to be something other than a kid. And yeah, I think at the time probably wanted to be a cop or some kind of I always saw cops and firefighters and military as our heroes. So it was definitely one of my first aspirations as a kid was to grow up and be something like that.
So speaking of heroes, who's really been a hero for you in your life?
My dad, for all his faults, was still, no matter how I looked at it, was always my hero. I mean, he was, like I said, for all the faults that he did have, he was certainly, um, my hero my whole entire life, and he passed way too early and whatever, but yeah, he was definitely unquestionably the hero in my life, my whole life, and somebody I aspired to be like, and not only be like, but try to look at what he did right and what he did wrong, truly compartmentalize the two, and try to take the best of what he was and be that, so.
So what's been the best advice you've ever gotten?
I've taken a lot of advice over the course of my life, Joe, and I don't know that I could nail it down to one thing, but um, there's a lot of different things, and if I look at, you know, when it comes to like relationships, right? I mean, the one thing I think about when it comes to relationship advice is when someone equates love to what you will or will not do to make them happy, you'll never win. That doesn't work. When I think about general life advice, the one thing that I try to tell people is if you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, generally bad things will happen. We have to seek a strong position in our own emotional intelligence, so that and I don't want everybody to be these emotionless automatons that are out running around just blank faced and unhappy, but allowing our emotions to dictate our actions will typically lead to bad things. So make good decisions there. Don't focus on what we can control. So the I don't think there's any singular piece of advice in my life, Joe, that I would nail down as the best piece of advice. But just look for good mentors and find those nuggets that apply to your life, and use them to make your life a better life, and it'll make the world a better place.
So if you got a phone call today and you had somebody that said, I can get anybody in the world to be on your podcast, who would you love to interview and talk to?
Boy, living or dead?
Yeah, let's open the door.
uh, yeah, no, no, it's hard to say because there are a lot of people out there that really have a lot to say and a lot to share with the world. Um, I've had an opportunity to speak with some very, very influential people over the course of my life, over the course of my podcast life so far. Um, but uh, but no, that is a fantastic question, and I'm almost at a loss for that because there's so much I would like to say and ask so many people. Like with regard to the pandemic, I've had the opportunity to speak to the top of the top. I mean, I've developed a friendship with Dr. Francis Collins, the former head of the NIH. He headed up the National Institutes of Health during the onset of the pandemic, and you know uh, I'd probably like to have a conversation with Dr. Fauci, which I know I'm certain I could arrange at this point. I just haven't done so. But then I've also talked to Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who's on the other side, one of the lead authors of the Great Barrington Declaration. So I've developed a friendship with both of those guys. Um, politicians, I mean, I know a lot of people would think, okay, I'd probably like to have a conversation with Joe Biden at some point if he could work his way through a civil conversation with a guy like me, um, just to find out, uh, on or off the record, literally, on or off the record, I'd have the conversation just to try and get some kind of honest answer out of him as far as how things went. I'm sure a lot of people talk about Trump and talking to President Trump at this point and stuff. I don't even know if I'd you know how much good that would do. If I go back into the realm of people, who could I talk to? I'd love to have a conversation. Now obviously not possible, but Archbishop Desmond Tutu, talking to him about the Truth and Reconciliation project in South Africa, talking about South African apartheid. Maybe if I can get a conversation, maybe I might work towards this. But his daughter Tutu, talking to me about how things were, with her father growing up and whatever. Because I think a Truth and Reconciliation project like that will be very important in the coming months and years, as we try to get through the divide that the pandemic response has caused. So I would really have to think more about that. I know that was kind of a rambling answer,
No,
but
that's
I would
good.
really really have to think more about that, because I don't like to talk to people just for the sake of talking. I
Sure.
like to talk to people who are going to bring results out of our conversation, and
Yeah.
I think I've been able to do that. I've like I said, I've had incredible conversations with people doing incredible work. When it comes to depolarization, trying to mend the fabric of our civility. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that answer. So, what is your daily motivation? What gets you out of bed? What gets you to be you, to evolve and, to do your show and to do the work that you do? What is that?
Well, probably first and foremost, my family and my faith. I mean, I think I truly believe that the world in which we live needs more people trying to make it better, instead of people trying to build a following on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, by dancing around, doing strange TikTok things and whatever. Um, I really think the world needs more influencers that are actually trying to better the world, and I do so, and I try to do so. I try to do my small part of that because of my family. I've got a wife and a couple kids that depend on me, and I know my kids are going to be around. God willing, they're going to be around a lot longer than I will be, and I think there has to be people out there putting all their effort into making the world a better place, rather than just trying to make a buck, you know, jiggling on TikTok. So um, that's really it for me. Trying to be the best person that I can be, and making a better world for my kids and my nieces, my nephews, and all those that are going to come behind us, because there's too many people out there that are trying to do the opposite, and
Yeah,
somebody's got to push back.
absolutely. So, of all the things that you've done and overcome and become in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Being a good father to my kids. Um, yeah, it's it. Yeah, there's nothing that I'm prouder of on any given day than being a good husband to my wife, and being a good father to my children, and there was an awful lot of there was an awful long period of my life where I never thought that was going to happen. It just didn't comport with my lifestyle, my mentality, my mindset, none of that. And the fact that I'm where I'm at today, and do what I do today is is certainly at the top of the list on what I'm most proud of. And like I said, that ends up being my motivation for everything anyway,
Yeah.
or as a result. So
So, let's say a time machine pulls up to your house when we get off the phone, and you can go anywhere in history and see one event with your own eyes. Where are you going? What would you love to have seen?
Anywhere in history to see one single event.
Yeah.
Boy, that would it would have to be the anywhere in history to see one single event. It would have to be any single whether it be uh going to see one of the many miracles that Jesus Jesus performed would that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
It would be okay. I want to see one of these, whether it be when he raised from the dead the young child that whose parents had believed that their 12-year-old daughter had passed, or the turning the few loaves of bread and a couple fish into enough to feed 5,000 people. Those kind of things. I mean, just to be able to witness one of those things would, I don't know, gives me goosebumps right now. But if I had to pick a more modern event, I would like to be in Philadelphia for the signing
Yeah.
of the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
I know I give these dual answers and stuff sometimes, but yeah, those are the things that come to my mind, Joe, is those kind of things. I mean, I think I truly think as far as humankind, they are some of the most monumental things that have ever happened since humans started walking the earth. So
Absolutely. So, Wilk, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everybody that you work with, all of your listeners on your show, but ultimately you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm just a working class guy, working class redneck dude from the Midwest who who has made more than my share of mistakes over the course of my life, and that now I'm trying to take the wisdom that I've obtained from those mistakes and make the world a better place. That's ultimately what I see myself as, and you know, just a regular guy out there trying to make the world a better place. That's the long and the short of it, Joe, is just a working class dad from the Midwest trying to use my little piece and of this bigger puzzle and trying to make the world a better place.
Yep, I dig it, man. Well said. So, if anyone wants to listen to your podcast, reach out to you, learn more about you, where can they go? Where's the best place?
DerateTheHate.com. Derate just like derate to turn something down, right? DerateTheHate.com is my main website. I've also got wilksworld.com and whatnot. But or they can email me wilk@wilksworld.com. Just look up Wilk Wilkinson, Google me or whatever, and you're gonna find me. But the podcast is where I do most of my work these days, Joe. So DerateTheHate.com.
Right on. Well, hey, keep doing the good work, man. Have a great Christmas. Wonderful 2024, man.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, Joe. And keep doing what you're doing to better the world in which we live, brother.
Yes, sir. Take care.